Hello, welcome to NAUR. My name is Dr. Kramer, and today we're going to talk about 5G. The purpose of 5G is that we are dealing with a major crisis. And you're probably thinking, what is the major crisis with 5G? Well, now that we have implemented 5G, a lot of people don't realize that there are dangers, and there's 11 reasons that we need to be concerned. The United States, as we know, are currently leading the way on 5G. As of June 2016, the press conference where the Federal Communication Commission's head Tom Wheeler announced the opening up of low, mid, and high spectrum. There was no mention of health effects whatsoever, but the dangers are real. Thousands of studies, scientific studies, link low level of wireless radio frequency radiation exposures to a long list of adverse biological effects, including DNA single and double strand breaks, oxidative damage, disruption of cell metabolism, increased blood-brain barrier permeability, melatonin reduction, disruption to brain glucose metabolism, generation of stress proteins. And let's not forget that in 2011, according to the World Health Organization, known as WHO, classified radio frequency radiation as a possible 2P carcinogen, means cancer. More than recently, 25 million National Toxicology Program concluded that radio frequency radiation of the type used by cell phones can cause cancer. But where does 5G fit into all of this? Given that 5G is set to utilize frequencies above and below existing frequency bands of 5G, sits in the middle of this. But the tendency varies from country to country for 5G to utilize the higher frequency bands, which brings its own particular concern. Here is my take on it. The denser the soup of the electrosmog, meaning that we are bombarded with high frequency of low shortage, intensify, creating a more complicated, denser soup of this. So basically what this means is that the coverage layer is 600 megahertz, 700 megahertz, 800, all the way up to 2.6 gigahertz. Then we have to deal with the capacity layer, which in Europe, it ranges between 3,400 to 3,800 megahertz, awarding a trial license. In China, 3,300 to 3,600 megahertz ongoing trial, 4,400 up to 4,500 megahertz, and 4,800 to 4,990. In the United States, 3,100 to 3,550 megahertz, and that's 3,700 to 4,200 megahertz. In Japan, it's 3,600 to 4,200 megahertz and 4,400 and 4,900 megahertz. So you're probably asking you, what does this mean? Well, basically this means to work with higher range of mmWave and 5G, the antennas required are smaller. So the experts are talking about these small 3 millimeters by 3 millimeters. To low intensity is for efficiency and to deal with signal disruption from natural and man-made obstacles. So basically, it is like you're going into a microwave in a sense, 5G. It's a huge wealth of information and is very bad for our health and our environment. There's a lot of effects on the skin with 5G. The biggest concern is how these wavelengths will affect our skin. The human body has between 2 million and 4 million sweat ducts. So according to Dr. Ben Isaiah of Hebrew University in Israel explains that our sweat ducts act like an array of helical antennas when exposed to these wavelengths of 5G, meaning that we become more conductive. in New York, there was a study that was experimented with 60 gigahertz waves, and according to the scientific analysis, penetration depth showed more than 90% of the transmitted power is absorbed in the epidermis and dermis layer. So according to this, the MMWs studied by Dr. Yael Stein of Hebrew University said to cause humans physical pain as our nociceptors flare up in recognition of the wave as a damaging stimuli. So we're looking at possibilities of many skin diseases and cancer, as well as physical pain to our skin. And you probably saw with our Senator McCain, he passed away of brain cancer. Well, if you keep your phone to that same location, that can generate issues. Also, 5G can affect your eyes. In 1994, found that low-level millimeter microwave radiation produced lens opacity in rats, which can deal with production of cataracts. And it also deals with effects of our heart. According to the 1992 Russian study, found that frequencies in the range of 53 to 78 gigahertz, which is 5G proposes to use, impacted the heart rate variably as an indicator of stress in rats. Another Russian study on frogs whose skins was exposed to this same level and found heart rate changes known as arrhythmias, means irregular heartbeats. Our immune system is affected by 5G. According to 2002 Russia scientific study, affects 42 microwave radiation exposures of the blood of healthy mice. It was concluded that the whole body exposure of healthy mice to low intensity is EHF-EMR has a profound effect that increased non-specific immunity. Number 6, we deal with the effects of our self-growth rates. So in 2016, America's study observed the MMWs as a low intensity, mirroring the future environment brought by the 5G. We have the effects of bacteria resistance. So you see the pandemics in California, across the world, is that we have found out that 5G, according to our study here in the US, suggested that MMW effects are mainly on water, cell plasma, membrane, and genome too. Genome. They found that interaction with bacteria has altered their sensitivity to different biological active chemicals, including antibiotics. More specifically, the combination of MMW and antibiotics showed that it may be leading to antibiotic resistance in bacteria. And you can see as evidence today. Everyone is thinking, well, maybe it's just too much. It's a both. It's the both world, 5G and also overprescription of antibiotics. The 8th effects of 5G is effects on plant health. One of the features in 5G particularly susceptible to being absorbed by plants and rain. Humans and animals alike consume plants as our food source. And the effects of MMW has plants could leave us with food that is not safe to consume. Think of GMOs on steroids. The water falls from the sky onto these plants that are irradiated. In 2010 study in aspen seeding showed the exposure of radio frequency led to these leaves showing necrosis symptoms. The 9th issue that we had is the effects of the atmosphere depletion of fossil fuels. The implementation of 5G wireless network requires launching of rockets to deploy satellites for 5G. These satellites have a short lifespan, which require a lot more deployment than what we're currently seeing. A new type of hydrocarbon rocket engine expected to power a fleet of suborbital rockets would emit black carbon, which could potentially significant changes in the global atmospheric circulation and distribution of ozone and temperature, according to 2010. And number 10, disruption of natural ecosystem. 5G, let me repeat this again, disruption of natural ecosystem. Since the year 2000, there have been reports of birds abandoning their nest as well as health issues like plumage deterioration. Problems reduces survivorship and death. You've probably seen a lot of birds have just collapsed and passed away. It's due to this implementation of 5G. It's like you're basically walking in a microwave environment. It's very dangerous. And in my humble opinion, it is so important that we get with our politicians and that we get together and that we talk to the people about the effects of 5G and how it can damage our society. And you can see the implementation now. And you saw in the summit where President Trump went to the powers that be at the summit and they talked about 5G. So it is important that you can see the changes in our world. You can see things are heating up and changing. But of course, nature does change. But as we are advancing in technology, we got to make sure that whatever we are producing in our technology, we are helping our earth. Because we only have this one earth, we only have this one life, and we only have these one life forms. So it is up to us for the next generation to have what we used to have, the wonderful clean water, which in India is drying up. And you probably ask yourself, well, what happened? Well, what happened is that we are not looking at the full spectrum of what's happening. So I will provide more videos in the future, but I wanted to keep this at least a 12-minute minimum because this is a lot of information for you to absorb. But research and look at what 5G is and how dangerous it is. Yes, it is good to have advancement of technology. I am in the field of advancement and I welcome it. But on the same token, we want to keep our environment safe and us safe from getting various cancers. The list goes on. And remember, before I conclude, do an act of kindness today. Get with your local congressman, your local people, and tell them how dangerous 5G is. And that we don't need 5G. I know we might need things faster, but is it worth destroying our world? So just think about it. And remember, do an act of kindness today. And thank you for your time. And I love you all. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Goodbye.